Alright guys, hope you guys are doing well. First want to thank you guys for submitting your check-in videos yesterday. You guys did a good job on those. Just wanted to touch base, see your face, and make sure everything was going all right. If you, again, as we go through, as I've said from the beginning, if you need anything, let me know. We're going to jump into our last unit of the year, and this is on ecology. You'll see on Schoology, I have just a couple things to do. Take the notes on this PowerPoint and then complete the intro assignment. As we get to one of the slides, I will talk about what your next assignment is, and you will have instructions on that starting either next week or the end of this week. We'll have to kind of just see how it goes. All right, so when we talk about this unit in ecology, obviously we need to figure out what ecology means. Okay, so when we're talking about ecology, we're talking about the study of the interactions of living things, and not only those living things, but also the non-living things that are in a physical environment. So if you look at this picture we have, you obviously can tell me what the living things are. You have the different fish, you have the different plants that are at the bottom of the ocean, etc. that are there, but there's also other factors that are going to affect this environment, such as the amount of sun, such as the temperature of the water, such as the pH level of the water. So everything together and how it interacts, now we're looking at what ecology really is. All right. So when we look at next, we're looking at how environments are organized. So if we start then at the bottom, obviously we're starting with just a single organism. So in this case, we're talking about a bison or a buffalo. When you have then multiple of those bison together, then we get a population, and that's just a group of organisms that are the same that live in a similar area. Now, when we get different populations together, we're talking about a community. So in this example, you see there's hawks, there's snakes, there's bisons, there's grass, etc. This would be the community that's there. Then we have kind of the community and all the other non-living things that make up the ecosystem. We'll talk more about ecosystems and biomes here in just a minute. So in this example that's here, we have obviously the mountains in the background. We have a stream over here. We have sunlight or no sunlight. We have the weather. That's all going to affect. So it's the communities, the different animals, okay, plants, etc., and then all the other non-living things that are surrounded. And then lastly, kind of ultimately, we have the biosphere, which is all those ecosystems together. So again, this is just a little more in-depth definitions of those different words. You can obviously come back to this whenever you need to look at those. Now let's get into what biodiversity is. So if you look at what the word actually means, okay, you have what? You have how things are different, how life is different, biodiversity, how life is different. So we're talking about the different varieties in the organisms and species that are around, the genetic differences, and then how the communities are different from one another. So what factors then will affect an ecosystem that we're in? If you look at this picture right here of the desert, you obviously there's going to be a lot of factors that are going to be there. We need to know a couple terms. Okay, we're going to distinguish between some of these factors that are here. So we have, for example, we have the sand. We have the sunlight. We also have different things like the shrubs that are around. We have some prints here, which could have been some animals such as a bobcat. So we distinguish these between living things and non-living things. So as I said, the sand or the sunlight would be a non-living thing. It could be soil, it could be water, it could be the cloud cover, etc. These are non-living things, whereas the shrubs, the animals, are all going to be living things. So when we talk about non-living things, we're talking about abiotic. Okay, the A meaning non, because biotic means living. So abiotic is non-living, and biotic refers to the living things. So this picture right here is all of the biomes that we have in our world. Now, we're going to be looking at these different biomes specifically in your next assignment, which is going to be a little biome activity, biome project, which you use your iBook and your iPad to distinguish between all these different biomes. Okay, but what we are looking at, and what you might see is if you look at this map, is you're going to notice that on the, take for example, the western part of North America, what's in orange here. What this tells us is that we're going to have the same type of climate, the same type of precipitation, and similar animals as the northern part of Africa, the Middle East, some parts of Asia, okay, the central part of Australia, all going to have the same type of precipitation, same type of temperature, etc. Thus, most likely the same type of living and non-living things that are there. Again, you will specifically look at a lot of these different biomes in our next assignment that we'll have over the next couple of days to get that finished. Not too intense, okay, but I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. So, what is a biome? Well, a biome is a biological community that is over a large area and allows us to look at some similarities and differences between those living and non-living things that are there. Okay. The two factors that are going to create these biomes, and this is important on what you need to know when I say what affects a biome, it is the temperature and is the precipitation. So how warm or cold it is, and then how much rain is it going to get. Okay, that's going to affect and determine what biome we are in. So let's take, for example, if we have this type of circumstance, we have a mountain range here, we obviously have a body of water on one side, and you have a sun. If the sun is going to then give a lot of rays and warm up the atmosphere and warm up the land that's around it, obviously the water side, this body of water, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to heat up. When it heats up, it's going to then give off and it's going to have evaporation. Well, when that evaporation goes up, the clouds are going to get bigger. Now, when the clouds then move across, the clouds can't just go through the mountain range. So what does it have to do to get through the mountain range? Well, it has to get lighter so that it can raise up. So in order for it to get lighter, it has to drop some of that precipitation. It drops it in the form of condensation or rain. Okay, when it does that, it allows it to get over the mountain range because it is now smaller cloud, it's lighter. When it gets over to the other side, though, there is no rainfall. So what you have on one side where all that water fell is you have a lot of green, lavish trees, shrubs, etc. On the other side, you're going to have more like a desert because there's not going to be that amount of water, that amount of precipitation that's needed to give the shrubbery that is on the side where all the water fell. So this is called a rain shadow, and we do have a part of North America where this occurs. And if you haven't looked at the next slide, think if you can think of where in North America this happens. You know, forest on one side where all that water was able to fall, and then desert on the other side. So we're talking again out on the west coast, okay, central California, where you're going to have the forest that's out there, and then you're going to have in Arizona where there is going to be more desert. So again, in conclusion, what's ecology? Ecology is those living and non-living things, okay, that are in an environment. How is an environment organized? Well, we're going to start with population, okay, or excuse me, not population. We're going to start with organism, then we're going to move to population, up to community, and eventually get to the ecosystem, biosphere, etc. Okay, what are the factors that affect an ecosystem? That's going to be the abiotic and the biotic factors. Okay, what makes parts of the world similar or different? Well, that's going to be the amount of precipitation and the temperature that's there. This slide is very important. It's good for your notes. Okay, this explains a lot of the information that we just went over. Make sure you get that jotted down, and you will turn your notes in, and then use this slide and use your notes to help you with that sheet. Next class, I will give you more information on that biomes assignment, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I hope you have an outstanding day, and we will talk later.